Aunamar, river of the plain, with a view of Tureen. Left of the road to Guttamassilaha, in the townland of Clownbrain, was the ancestral home of the Moores, where the father of our national poet Thomas Moore was born. The name Newton Sands was dropped, and Moyvane came in on the initiative of the late Father O'Sullivan, who was parish priest at the time. Now we approach the village from the south. View is straight through village onto Tarbert Road. Seen at left is Mutter Townland. The school is officially Mutter School, giving our village Mutter School, Newton Sands Creamery and Moyvane Post Office. The name Moyvane was on the post office prior to Father O'Sullivan's time. Circling around, we come to see the view from the east, the Glen Road side. The school prior to the present one was on this road. See Auckland and the road leading to Darragowan Cross. See Knockanure in the distance. The silence of unlaboured fields does not lie like a judgment in the air here. See the ploughed fields and also the green fields, which inspired Drennan to call our country the Emerald Isle. And no doubt evidence of long years of labour with spade and plough. See Johnny Stack's farm and Murray Cemetery, plus a view of Knockanure, and take a moment to go back 600 years to the 14th century when the church in Murray was built. The church is now in ruins, and the crosses and tombs tell us where the rude forefathers of the hamlet sleep. Knockanure, see the church of Corpus Christi. The church is on the road to Guttaglana. Knockanure, both rich and pure, a church that needs no steeple. Its every sod was made by God, and likewise all its people. Now we are circling over Guttamagona. In this townland, we find in Jim O'Connor's farm Tubber Rion Downey, the king of Sundays Well. Still over Guttamagona, we see the main road from Knockanure to Moyvane. And while still over Guttamagona, we see the war in the distance. An exile from the war saw the war in her dreams. Pleasant were my dreams last night, they bore me far away, until I watched the daylight creep o'er Lochish, Rhone and Ray. Old Island by at peace did lie, washed by the flowing Fee, and o'er the wall with joy I saw the silver sunbeam steal. With the war we also can see the valley. The song of that name is known far and wide. Looking down we see the old church and the fort, Lissafarran, in the centre of the field, now owned by the Clancys, previously by the Leahy family. Still circling over Farran, we have a view of the parish. Farran is over 400 feet over sea level. Here we see the ruins of the church in Knockanure, which is now known as the Old Burying Ground. This church, like Murray, is a 14th century building. Note the door. Over the threshold of this door, many a footstep passed to kneel and pray. Note in the end the stone which marks the Drury's graves and the window in the gable. Now on the Guttaglana Shannacool Road, we see Lisroo and the steps where Lyons, Welsh, Dalton and Dee were taken over the fence by the Tans on the 12th of May 1921 during the War of Independence. Dee escaped, the three others were murdered. This is the monument to their memory. Now we are over Carraweirach. To the top is Moyvane Knockanure, having an acre for every day in the year. In this area lived the ancestors of the great Austin Stag. Tubber Downey, with its water sparkling, the only diamond-shaped well in Ireland. Here in the month of May, we see women doing the rounds. round after round after round. They pray and they leave rags or tokens of any kind that will wither away like they hope their troubles will. Here they are still doing the rounds. Settle by settle, and a woman sits, like Robert Bolan said in his poem, counting her beads and preparing the way. Now we come to the winding gale. Gets its name from a tribe called the Gaels, or the Gaelies. It is settling, and it is the division between Kilba and Gurtamagona, or if you like, between the parish of Moyvane and Knockanure. It passes under Ahavoher Bridge, generally called Gale Bridge. In the triangle we see Ahavoher Cemetery. This is to the east of the townland of Curlid.
Newtown Sands Co-op was registered on the 11th of March 1895. The cow is the most important animal in Ireland. In the olden days, cows were milked by hand, and very often out in the open, with the milker sitting precariously on a three-legged stool. While muslin was used to strain the milk, hygiene was not a major consideration. Money was scarce, but turf was plentiful, and the open fire was the order of the day. In 1919, turf was making 7 6 a rake. Over the past 100 years, various modes of transport have been used to take milk to the creamery, from the bucket and wheelbarrow right through to the mobile tank. But the most commonly used vehicle was the horse-drawn cart, with large wheels and iron bands, which very often served as an alarm clock for the entire village. In 1913, the co-op's price for milk was 4 old pence per gallon, and it was in a very serious financial position. In fact, a special general meeting was called in January 1914 to consider putting the creamery up for sale, but it was decided by 35 votes to 6 not to sell it. With help from the provincial bank, the co-op struggled on for the next couple of years, but hit a crisis point again in the spring of 1916, when the bank refused a further loan. But local farmers decided to put up some of their own badly needed money to keep the creamery. In 1918, at the end of World War I, the co-op enjoyed a brief period of prosperity, and the milk prices increased to 9 old pence. This increase was short-lived, however, and milk prices dropped again through the Great Depression of the late 20s, the economic war of the 30s, and World War II, hitting a rock-bottom price of 3 3/4 in 1933. And in fact, it was 1943 before the price was back up to 9 old pence per gallon. In 1925, the co-op got its first telephone connection, and in October 49, an application was made to DSB for rural electrification in the area. The 1924 Dairy Produce Act set out the rules and regulations for the sampling and testing of milk and milk products. The can of milk was rolled or lifted from the car onto the platform and emptied manually into the open scales. This system ensured greater agitation of the milk and consequently more representative sampling than the modern metering system allows. It was also easier to detect sour milk or the presence of any foreign matter. Morning, Tom.
Good morning. Very good.
That milk is sour. That milk is sour. It's no good to...
Well, I used to call up the tea this morning.
Sorry. We have... Yes, that's sweet. That tank is unacceptable now. It is rusty and it is not suitable for bringing it to the creamery.
What will I do? I'll have to buy a new tank. Go to the bottom, please.
Oh, Tom, I'm sorry for that big one there.
Okay, look. Okay, thanks very much.
The 1950s saw a general rise in prosperity, triggered by government action and martial aid. The recently established Agricultural Institute showed farmers that farming was a business venture, not a hit-and-miss operation. In 1950, the supplier's average was 3,300 gallons per annum, and milk prices were around 15 old pence per gallon. Uncooled separated milk, commonly known as skim milk, was very much in demand for feeding to livestock, and of course for bread making. And not every farmer was always satisfied with the quantity he received. Along with the skim milk, the farmer usually took home his requirements of feeding stuff. Groceries from the village, and an occasional pint of cream. Butter making was a delicate and difficult business. Several butter makers plied their trade at Newtown Sands Co-op, including Oliver Murphy, Margie Fitzgerald, Julia Fitzgerald, Mary O'Shea, Dermot Jones, Sheila Donoghue, Kitty Linehan, Bridie Cleary, Isabel McCrossan and Jerry Murray. The first stainless steel churn replacing the old wooden churn was installed in 1969. The subsidised butter scheme of the 70s made butter available at 29p per pound. Perhaps it was a better way of reducing the butter mountains than the milk quota system which followed in '83. Michael Parish, manager of the co-op for 30 years, 27 to 57, with Mick Carney, Jerry Murray buttermaker, Kim Dunford, Jim Flaherty and Jack Nash. In 1959, the bottling plant was officially opened by Nicholas O'Brien IAOS and blessed by Father Lynch PP. It increased employment locally and provided a market for winter milk. But the high cost of bottles, transport, and the continuous repairs to the plant militated against it from day one. Pat Sugru, who was manager of the co-op for 10 years, 57 to 67, his two sons, Declan and Kieran, Mike Joe Flaherty, Tom Fitzgerald, Tom Mangan, Mick Murphy Listowel, and two Southern engineering fitters after commissioning a new Cochrane boiler in 1965. When the time came to replace the bottling plant, the co-op commissioned the IOS to carry out a viability study on the whole project, and Mr. Tony Fleming, IOS, advised the shareholders at a special meeting on the 28th of October 1968 that he would not recommend the installation of a new plant or continuing on with the old one. The meeting accepted his advice on a vote of 66 to 32. 3 walls remain of the old Cork Kerry Creamery, which was located here at Gale Bridge. It was owned by a Shanahan family from Cork. Behind these houses lies the remains of Keating's Creamery. When Robert Keating, a native of West Cork, died, his wife married Morris Cotter from the Abbeyfield area. Newtown Sands Co-op provides a delivery service for all its suppliers and customers. Tom Foley and Dan Welsh getting ready for a round of deliveries. A special rough terrain forklift, here driven by Ned Hudson, is used for fertilizer deliveries and other heavy loads. Since Mike Joe Flaherty's retirement, John Cunningham is our longest serving employee. He began working with the co-op in 1961. Mike Sullivan also works on milk intake and operates the CIP system. Mike Mahoney with his 5,000-gallon milk tanker. Toss Keane, driver of our second articulated truck. This pallet of dairy nuts consists of 70 25 kg bags, a far cry from the 200-weight bag of 30 years ago. Bulk milk collection was introduced on the 25th of May 1994 at the farm of Tom Moore, Crailid, and to date 10 suppliers have availed of the service. Milk is collected every third day. The advent of the steer axle has made milk tankers more manoeuvrable in farmyards. Using a double-stage plate cooler, milk is cooled to 6 degrees centigrade before entering the refrigerated tank, where it is cooled further and stored under 4 degrees. Milk is sampled and tested for butterfat, protein, total bacterial count, somatic cell count, and for the presence of antibiotics and added water. The milk passes through this electromagnetic flow meter at the rate of 90 gallons per minute. Mike Mahoney discussing quota problems with Dermot Kensey. This articulated truck, driven by Toskeen, is full-time on milk deliveries during the peak months and is used to collect feed and fertilizers in the off-peak period. It has a capacity of 6,000 gallons of milk or 24 tons of feed. Milk is sold to Golden Vale and North Kerry Milk Products. "92% of our suppliers deliver their milk to the creamery every day. After a good summer, the range provides an ideal opportunity for a chat with the neighbours. Greyhounds are likely to figure prominently in this discussion. Jimmy realizes the importance of agitating the milk before sampling. The co-op operates 2 milk intake points in the peak months. Washing facilities are provided, sometimes resulting in an early morning shower. Molasses is sold all the year round, but especially during the silage season. 4 mobile tankers are provided for customer use. Helen Dowling is standing in for Dan O'Connell, who has been with the co-op since 1979. Dominic O'Connell, assistant manager since October 73, is working the computerized system which was installed in 1994. I was appointed manager of the co-op on the 7th of April 1967. A new extension consisting of kitchen, toilets and boardroom was completed in 1994. Monthly committee meetings are held, and the present committee is as follows: Micah Heron, Con Carmody, John Carmody, Paddy Hanrahan, Tom Hanrahan, Jerry Kennelly, Michael Kennelly, Timmy Kennelly, Peter McGrath, Connie Nolan, Robert Nolan, John Scanlon, Con Shine Chairman, John Joe Sheehy, Patrick Shanahan, Willie Stack, Willie Sheehan, and Jack Welch, Vice Chairman. In response to the demands of our suppliers and customers, the co-op has increased its range of products. 1995 was a record year for the co-op, with £6.6 million passing through this hatch. Nuala warms up the audience at the start of our 25th annual dinner dance on the 17th of November 1995, while Pat Burke and his band wait in the background.
Immigration, they are prayer for no real
Reverend Fathers and friends, and I don't mean to suggest that our two priests are not our friends, I'm delighted and honoured to welcome you all to our centenary dinner. I hope you'll have a very enjoyable night, because this is a time for enjoyment. This is a time for celebration. We're not only celebrating the centenary of a co-op, more importantly, we are celebrating the survival and the success of a community which has revolved around that co-op. And I want to start tonight by thanking and paying tribute to our founding fathers, to those people who came together to set up this co-op 100 years ago.
I just noticed in having a look back through some of the records that we have records going back to our foundation in 1894 also. And I noticed that the balance sheet for Newtown Sands going back to 1897 showed that there were 137 members. They had sales of just over £6,500 and they had a net profit of £6. How things have changed. 400,000 gallons of milk was supplied in that year, and the price paid was 3.5 old pence per gallon. The following year, they had grown from the 137 members up to 228 members, so things were beginning to take off. I would like to say that I am delighted to see the pride that you're displaying here by your presence here tonight in your cooperative. I think it is great to see that there is pride in having your cooperative, supporting it. And I know from what Michael has said, and Michael has provided leadership from the management position, but also you have a committee of management and your chairman, Con Shine, also a credit. I think Michael has done a great job. He is certainly a very good standard bearer for you within the industry, and I am delighted and I want to thank you most sincerely for inviting me to be your guest here tonight, and I'd like to wish you every success for your centenary year, and may you have many more of them. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are great people to have maintained your independence. You have decided that you yourselves will decide your own future. I forget what I have to say there. To finish up on this, oh yes, if you have pride in your place and confidence in your abilities, nothing will stop you. And I hope that people from Mullinahone and other places will come to Moyvane to see cooperation, live, living and active cooperation in place. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dennis, for that stimulating address. We appreciate the time and the effort you put into it, and we'll certainly take home and digest what you have said. Now, at this stage, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Mrs. Barrett here tonight, whose husband, Michael, was manager of this co-op for 30 years, from 1927 to 1957. We're also delighted to have her son, Dr. Brendan, and wife, Mary. Michael Barrett's stewardship, some of you will recall it. From what I could read in the minutes, it was a very successful period in the history of this co-op. So now I'd like to call on our chairman, Con Shine, to present a bouquet of flowers to Mrs. Barrett, please. Now, Reverend Fathers, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to make a presentation to one of our colleagues, a member of our staff who will retire shortly. Mike O'Flaherty has given long and loyal service to this co-op. He has rounded that corner every morning for nearly 40 years, not 5 minutes late, but 5 minutes early. He has always been available to me day and night whenever I needed him, and in fact he may still have to pull on the old jersey if the boiler doesn't start some morning. I'm presenting him with the same gift as the other members of the staff and suppliers will be getting. That's an engraved pewter tank. The only difference is that in his case there's something in the tank which won't be in yours. So I'll be asking him as I often asked him before, not to spill this milk, Mike Joe. So you can come around and we'll present you with this. And if Ellie May is there, actually, Mike Joe and myself have enjoyed a particularly good relationship, and on behalf of his fellow workers, the committee, on my own behalf, I want to wish himself and Ellie May health and happiness in his retirement. I'd like to present a bouquet of flowers to Ellie May. She is one lady who truly epitomises the spirit of Moyvane, unquenchable. Our centenary committee, Mick McHenry retired in 1996. Our centenary staff. At midnight on the 10th of March 1995 in the Devon Hotel, a lone piper heralded the dawn of a new century of cooperation for the suppliers, customers, committee and staff of Newtown Sands Co-op.
Horton's old house, formerly O'Grady's. The O'Grady's were traditionally blacksmiths in this parish, and Paddy Horton came from Favenford and married into the O'Grady family, and he plied his trade as a blacksmith in the forge next to the house for many years, and then his son Bill carried on afterwards as a blacksmith in the parish. There was another family of blacksmiths in the parish up at the Dinn Road. They were the O'Connor family, where Moss O'Connor and his brother Tom were blacksmiths and plied their trade there for many, many years. Here we see Mossy O'Connor shoeing a horse. All I know is a door into the dark. Outside, old axles and iron hoops rusting. Inside, the hammered anvil's sharp-pitched ring, the unpredictable fantail of sparks or hiss when a new shoe toughens in water. The anvil must be somewhere in the centre, horned as a unicorn, at one end square, set there immovable. An altar where he expends himself in shape and music. Sometimes, leather apron, hairs in his nose, he leans out in the jam, recalls a clatter of hooves where traffic is flashing in rows, then grunts and goes in with a slam and flick to beat real iron out to watch the bellows. Then, the day in the bog. And here we have a group of people going to spend a day on the mountain, as we called it around here, and they have their provisions in the tea chest, and they're going to cut the turf. And here you see the ass being tied to the wheel of the cart, and he's going to graze for the day. And there are the provisions in the tea chest being put under the cart, out of the way of the sun. No day in the bog will be complete without a jar of porter, and to keep the porter cool, it's put in a bog hole. No fridges in those days, just cool, clear water, and the milk is also put into the water to preserve it. And of course the children are fishing for stickleback, or as we call them around here, kissanines. Here we see the man cutting a straight line along the line with a hay knife. And then the cutting of the turf. There's a sod on the schlon, there's a sod in the air, and a sod being spread on the bank. The turf is laid out or spread on the bank to dry. And then the sup of tea. Tea on the mountain, tea put into the canister and boiled, and it has the taste of the smoke and the taste of the turf. And then they're footing the turf. The turf is stacked up in small heaps to let the wind and the sun get at it to dry it. And then a few weeks later, it's refooted, or as we say around here, ray-footed, made into bigger heaps to be ready to draw home. And here they're fitting the turf into the assen cart so that it can be drawn home for the winter. It's clamped up above water level, as we say, above the rail, and they're drawing it home. The potato is the staple diet of the people, and here we see a man turning over the sod with a spade. Clay is the word, and clay is the flesh, where the potato gatherers like mechanized scarecrows move along the sidefall of the hill. And here they're turning the ban and making drills. And now the seed potatoes have to be cut. A full potato is cut into scalloons, or small little seed potatoes, each potato having at least one eye or maybe two. And then the potatoes are set literally a foot apart. These potatoes are being sowed in ridges. The ridges are being closed with shovel and spade. And now it's time to dig the potatoes. The potatoes are dug with a shovel, or more properly with a pike, which won't cut the potatoes, and they're gathered in buckets. And here we have a man with his horses and plough, ploughing the ground, breaking the earth. And here comes a man with a harrow to further break up the earth. Then it's time to scuffle the ground before it is rolled. And now the drills are being opened, and the potatoes are sowed again a foot apart. My father worked with a horse plough, his shoulders glowed like a full sail strung between the shafts and the furrow. The horses strained at his clicking tongue. An expert, he would set the wing and fit the bright steel-pointed sock. The sod rolled over without breaking. At the head rig, with a single pluck of reins, the sweating team turned round and back into the land. His eye narrowed and angled at the ground, mapping the furrow exactly. And again, the potatoes are being picked. The harvest is good. There'll be no hungry bellies in the village or in the parish this year. The time of mowing the hay. In the old days, the hay was reaped with a reaping hook or a sickle, held in one hand and reaped with the other. And then the hay was shaken out, originally by hand, for the sun to dry it. And then the side, a great improvement on the reaping hook. The side was edged with an edging stone, and the hay was cut much more efficiently with the side. And then the mowing bar, the mowing machine pulled by a horse, the great big blade cutting a great swath through the grass. While the man on the machine was mowing, there was another man edging the knife so that the knife could be replaced at will. And then the swart turner, turning the hay for the sun. Sometimes in bad weather, the hay was turned and had to be put into cocks very quickly. So before it could be made into wines, it was made into grass cocks, small little cocks of hay that would protect it from the rain. Sometimes even grass cocks were insufficient to prevent the weather from doing its worst. In 1946, which was a very bad year, the tripod wine was introduced to this area. 3 sticks were tied together in the form of a tripod, and the hay was placed and cocked around the tripod so that the wind and what little sun was there could dry the hay. Here is the hay being raked in on a slide, turned over, and then placed around the tripod. And then the sugan or hemp tied down the wine, and it was left there for a few weeks for the weather to dry it, saving the hay. Now it's raked or racked down with a rake, like combing your hair, and it's all ready. Sometimes a different kind of wine was made. This would have been in very fine weather when you could make a very big wine. And the way to make it was to put a small boy, usually a small boy or a girl, on top of the wine, and he would shape the wine to a little pinnacle on top. And again it was tied down with a sugan, racked down and left to save. Of course, no day in the meadow was complete without the tea. The women would bring the tea, the men would sit down, have their tea and their sandwiches, or indeed before the sandwich a wasted of bread, home bread usually, later shop bread, and nothing was as sweet as sitting drinking tea on a fine hot day in summer in the meadow. And at the end of the day, the hay was raked with a raker, because everybody knew that wilful waste made woeful want, and the last pieces or sops of hay were raked up and put into a wine or two. Then it was time to draw home the hay. In the old days, the hay was drawn home by a horse and common car. On the car, as you can see, there are 4 sticks and 2 guards. And the hay was loaded into that, piled up and drawn home. In later times, with the invention of the hay cart, or the hay cart as we called it around here, the hay was pulled into the car with modern technology at the time. The hay wine fitted snugly into the huge car. And it was drawn home. And the children had a great ride on the back. Of course, no summer's evening was complete without the crossroad dance, the platform dance at the crossroads. And around here, there were platform dances at the Ballycross, Tarman's Cross, Blake's Cross, Ahavore Cross, where the new graveyard now is. There were dances at Bridgeen Sands over at the castle near Fitzmaurice in Denalapa, and there were dance halls as well, Mary Welch's and Tom O'Connor's. The bicycles go by in 2s and 3s. There's a dance in Billy Brennan's barn tonight, and there's the half-talk code of mysteries and the wink and elbow language of delight. 8:30, and there is not a spot upon a mile of road, no shadow thrown that might turn out a man or woman, not a footfall tapping secrecies of stone. I have what every poet hates, in spite of all the solemn talk of contemplation. Oh, Alexander Selkirk knew the plight of being king and government and nation. A road, a mile of kingdom, I am king of banks and stones and every blooming thing. The dance took place on a concrete platform. The music was supplied by a box player or an accordion player. Usually, one single person played the box. Sometimes there would be more than one accordion player, and they would take turns. Waltzes were danced, polkas were danced. The sets were a great favourite around here. And sometimes too, a gamey step dancer would dance the old loose steps of traditional dancing. These steps are rather different to the more modern, more stiff steps of dance today. And there was always a gamey aspect to the dancer. And sometimes too, there'd be a story.
Here, welcome to the Crossroads dance. Mick's grandfather still lives with us, he's now 94. He still reads the morning paper, still in bed. And he always looks at the death notices, and if his name isn't on it, he gets up. Well, glory be to God, what stories he told me about the Crossroads dancing long ago. I will never forget them. He met his wife part of the Crossroads dance, and he said there was three in the parish, but the only one he could always think of before he would meet his wife. The first night he met her, he said he'll never forget it. He said he got her home in the bar of the bicycle. Well, glory be to God for the night, driving against an easterly breeze. He said he had a ball tire in the bike, he had a pain in his tooth, and the chain was falling off.
And after the story, there'd be a shut-eyed song.
That me and my sailor boy married should be. But let them deride me and say what they will. While there's breath in my body, he's the one I love still. If I were that bird.
And then a different kind of blackbird, determined to upset the fun.
And on the top rigging, I was there in my nest, and I feel my head on his lily white breast.
Sometimes old, traditional, local songs were sung.
Men yet to take your place today, while grass is found on Ireland's ground, your memories will endure. So God guard and keep the place you sleep and the valley of Knockanure.
And then it was back to dancing to round off the evening, and the dancers would always be aware or half aware that they might be interrupted at any minute by a clergyman who wanted to save their souls. And here he comes, and they scatter. He scatters the musicians, but there are some brave hearts there for whom love is stronger than the fear of the priest. And they team up, and off they go on the bar of the bicycle, down to the field of love, still aware that they might be hotly pursued by the clergyman. The girl is shy, the man excited, and the priest in hot pursuit. And as they make their shy love beneath a bush, suddenly, in the gate, comes the reverend gentleman and puts an end to the tryst, for this evening at least. The scarecrow stands above a field of corn to keep the crows of Mephistopheles away. And here, two men reap the corn with reaping hooks. Later, with the advent of the scythe, it was more quickly cut, and then more quickly still by the mowing machine. Technology has advanced from the days when a man sat down single-handedly edging, and now technology helps in the edging. And then it's time to gather the corn into sheaves, or shaves as they're called around here. When they're gathered into sheaves, they're put in groups of sheaves to make a big sheaf. Now it's time to spread out the corn on a canvas on the ground for flailing. The flail consists of 2 straight poles tied together with a leather thong. And they're swung down on the corn by 2 people, always 2 people, to separate the grain from the straw. And then, gathering the grain, the grain is gathered and it's put into a cavern where it is milled into flour. Bread. Someone else cut off my head in a golden field. Now I am recreated by her fingers. I am fine as anything in this legendary garden, yet I am nothing till she runs her fingers through me and shapes me with her skill. And then the thrasher. The old thrashing mill. The corn is loaded up, hiked up onto the top of the thrasher and fed through it, and comes out as straw on one end, and the grain on the other end is put into bags. The thrasher is powered by a belt from an adjoining tractor, which gives it power. Here it's being fed in to the machine to be separated into straw and grain. And here is the belt that powers the thrasher. The grain is collected in bags. When the bags are full, they're tied. And in some parts of the country, there was a lift worked by a ratchet, much like the lift that we use nowadays to lift bales, to load the bags onto carts. And here comes the one that everybody waits for, the lady with the enamel bucket full of porter. After a long, hard day in the yard or in the field, thrashing corn, there was nothing more wanted to relieve your drought and to revive your drooping spirits than a mug of porter. It is consumed with relish.
I have lots of memories of the fair day in Newtown. How could I forget it? It was a great day for business always in the shop, you know. But I remember the first fair very distinctly. But I can't remember when the last fair was. The first fair was in 1949. But I can't remember when we had the last one. You know, as it was when the match started in the stores. But I remember the first fair anyway. We had great excitement. We had to get an exemption for the bar to open at 6 o'clock in the morning. So we were going to be getting up at 6 and being ready for the jobbers and for the farmers to come. And about 5, the tour went on in the street. Ho! Stop him! And who was it? Tom the boss, down from the Glen Road. He had no cattle only having a rise out of us. But we were all up anyway, and we were ready for the the business when it started, the business of the day, and about 7 o'clock or so, the cattle began to come, all fine cattle in from Knockanure and Moyvane, always good cattle around here. And it was short horns we had then, and they're all had horns, not like the cattle of today. So the farmers were delighted that they hadn't to be taking their cattle into the store. You're not walking in 7 miles further with them. Yeah, and then we had, we had, of course, plenty of drink all the day, and the pint was only 10p a pint that time, I remember well. And 10p a pint, you'll get 24 pints for a pound. That time there were 240p in the pound, and you'll get 24 pints for the pound. And then we had an odd row, of course, then, when the drink wasn't very dear. There was the odd row, but not much, just the same. And when the people began to get hungry, we had soup in the kitchen, and everyone got bread and soup, free of charge, for the day, so they were all happy after it.
The annual fair in Moyvane was held usually in November, where local farmers and farmers from surrounding parishes brought their stock to be sold to jobbers, and as they said of the fair of Spancel Hill, the young, the old, the brave and the bold, they came to sport and kill. What a curious combination, the fair of Spancel Hill.
We'll give him half.
We'll take 4.
Go on.
Go on, take 4. We'll take a 5.
You can fall half.
Come on, here.
Go on. You can fall half.
I'll tap around on the there is me now. Right, so that's it, huh?
Right, move it over the 4.
5, 6, and 10 bob.
Right.
I wish you look. Give me an old fellow.
Right. Get on forward. Get it up, yeah. Get it up. Top. Let's get better. Get away from the road here.
Hey, Molly, come and all that is a bit late.
God, Till they have wood now for the Christmas market. God knows it. Oh, God, it is.
She stepped away from me and she moved through the fair, and fondly I watched her go here and go there. Then she went her way homeward with one star awake as the swan in the evening moves over the lake.
How much for the pig?
7 and 6.
Right. For all time's sake. That is all.
You give him 5 bob.
No.
5 bob I give him.
7 and 6. It's a fine pig.
That'll be another month in anyway. He wants 20 made out.
No. 7 and 6. He cashed a lot of money to put him out.
I suppose he, but still now, he's small. What do you think, Mikey John?
No.
Go on. Don't break Mikey John.
No, 7 and 6. 7 shillings so.
No. Well, I suppose I'll have to take him anyway. But you'll have to give me a bit of look out of him, I suppose.
I'll stand you a pint below. I'll stand a pint below, Mikey Jaws.
Right, Mike. Thanks very much. I'll give up with the post, Mike.
Look, Mike. 5 bob. A fine specimen of a bird. Look at that. He give you years of pleasure. He give your fowl a crate. Years of it. How much pleasure is he giving up to now? 5 bob. Oh, great. No. Yeah. 5 bob. Will you take him for 5 bob? Look at that. A really good specimen. Look at the fine comb he has. Look at that. Yeah. I will, ma'am. Will you? God spare her. No, ma'am. Many happy years with him, a crate. You may never be shot with a cock. Good girl. Bye.
How much is here?
The half round, sir. It's in good condition. It's in great condition, sir. I think he'd do it a bit more meter on the breast. You wouldn't.
He's a great
half pound. He's a great farm, man.
I'll give us a tour, Bob. Give us a
Agar we couldn't, honestly. Cash a lot to feed him.
He does a horse.
Feed them all the year.
You'll give us tuppence for look anyway.
We'll give a halfpenny for look.
Oh, well, give me a penny anyway.
Right, you are.
Here, we'll give it a £1/2 and give me a penny for look. I was trying to buy an old donkey today, but I couldn't see any faster one around than you want to see.
Yeah.
Big crowd at the theatre.
There's a big crowd at the fair, all right.
Big crowd.
You can give us a penny for look, so
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Christmas, the money scarce.
£40.
No good.
£40.
No good.
Divide the last cheddar. We'll divide the last cheddar.
£50 is the price.
Come on, we'll divide the whole pony had the strangles. No. Had the strangles.
£50.
How much do you have? You get half it, sir.
No good. No good.
Go on.
No
What you
good.
got to? £40. Go on.
good.
Take £30
No good. No good.
Go on, you could be false, you know.
No good. No good.
You could be false. I don't strangles.
No good.
You'll take 40, Christopher.
No.
£40.
No. No. You're not
Right.
interested. You're not interested. No.
£60 and a £5 for look.
You mind the look now?
No, £5 for
Get the
look.
look. £50
Come on, no.
price of the cob. £50.
No, no. £50 he said no have it all. Give me a £5 for look. She had all strangles back. £50. £5 for look. Come on, a £5 for look. Oh, that was the deal.
Look, look, hold it, hold it. Money is mine, the money is yours. Money is mine, there's your money.
And now, the day's huckstering over, it's time for soup and bread at Carney's and all the other pubs, or maybe a dropping stronger. No man would take the curse to the town home with him from the fair. The season of goodwill, and this man and his wife are bringing home the Christmas from the village. In poor times, the Christmas was a sack of flour and a jar of porter for the neighbours. And in those years too, that American custom of the turkey was not prevalent in this part of the world. It was a goose you had for Christmas. You raised the goose in your own farm, and you killed the goose, and you plucked her for the Christmas dinner. And of course, no Christmas would be complete without the letter from America, brought by the ever-friendly postman. The postman has been going the rounds all day from house to house, and he's been given a little drop-in from all the houses, so he's making his way not straight the path of the Lord, but the circuitous way of the world up to the front door. He dismounts from his bicycle and brings the Christmas in to the lady of the house.
Happy Christmas, Nell. A Happy New Year to all here. Now, I have a parcel for you. And a letter from America. Now.
Okay. Would you like to have a drink?
I got it.
Or would you like to take a seat?
Thanks, Nell. Go ahead. Happy Christmas, Tom. Thank you.
Look at what we received from America, just the one to imagine or read. Look at all these dollars.
Happy New Year, Nell. Good luck now.
Gingerly, he mounts his trusty steed, proceeds down the road in a manner proving that the longest way around is the shortest way home. And then the rosary. The family rosary In those days, everybody knew that the family that prayed together stayed together.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee, blessed art thou among women, blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee, blessed art thou among women, blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee, blessed art thou.
The Christmas candle. Sometimes a turnip was hollowed out and bedecked with holly. At other times, a 2-pound jam crop would be used, filled with sand or meal, yellow meal, maize, and the candle would be put in and lit. Le Crinlian an angle tan spare ma braca, ta firklan chaka sa gay on ganok, adi gantina is terk on the lappen, lihig mak day in san tigsha anok. With candles of angels the sky is now dappled, the frost on the wind from the hills has a bite. Kindle the fire and go to your slumber, Jesus will lie in this household tonight. Leave all the doors wide open before her, the Virgin who will come with a child on her breast. Grant that you will stop here tonight, Holy Mary, that Jesus tonight in this household may rest. The lights were all lighting in that little hostel. There were generous servings of victuals and wine, for merchants of silk, for merchants of woolens. But Jesus will lie in this household tonight. The candles were blessed with holy water. In those days there were no cribs. There was a little altar, a simple family altar, and the candles were placed on the window to light the way of the pilgrim Jesus and Mary and Joseph across the earth. And out he goes with the chilly lamp to check upon his stock as the lights light the donkey and the Holy Family. Fáilte go Moyvane. You're welcome to Moyvane, where the community are watching out for each other. Clonbroston Park officially opened in 1984 on the 17th of June. Clonbroston, the great Moyvane footballer, winner of 6 All-Ireland medals, and this field is dedicated to his memory. Just to show that not only the men play in this parish, but the great footballers come from great women and great men, here are the girls of the parish being coached by Clonbroston's granddaughter, Geraldine Brosnan.
1920-21 he began to play for us. As a matter of fact, the first team Con ever played was very hard, believe it or not. And just, don't you know, local teams picked up fellas here and there to play. Yeah. But he became well known, and the word went all over Kerry that there was a great young star rising up. And the name Clonbroston was now known all over the county, but he was known to the Black and Tans also. So they had a special interest in him. You know, word came down from headquarters when the Black and Tan War was on, that a certain man by the name of the D.I. Sullivan, who was the district inspector in Cork, had given the Irish Volunteers and the IRA a terrible tough time, had moved to the Stowell. And word came down from headquarters that he was to be eliminated. And the men that eliminated him were T. Moyvane, Clonbroston, Jackie Heaven, and Danny Grady. And a funny thing, the D.I. Sullivan went down the street that day, and they were in Danny Kennelly's pub, and they were waiting for him to come up the street to execute him. And the man across the road who gave them the tip was Jack Shane. And Jack gave him the tip that he was coming up. And poor Jack was killed by the Black and Tans later on himself. That's right, that's right. The Sullivan was killed by them in the Stowell, and the orders of headquarters. And of course the Tans knew their man quite well, that it was Clonbroston. And it wasn't long if they made their way to Moyvane, and they burned the Brosnan home here to the ground. That's right. Nice. And Con's mother and his sisters were kicked out there in the street. Right. And it looked at the end of the Brosnan home but thanks be to God, came like Phoenix like from the ashes. Right. It arose, and the next generation came on, and the next generation has come now, and it's going on to the next generation again now here. And Con's first All-Ireland was in 1923.
How many All-Irelands did he play in?
He played in 8.
Played in 8.
And he won 6.
Yeah.
His first one was against Dublin in 1923. Dublin had won the 2 previous All-Irelands. And Con pitched in centre field against 2 of the greatest footballers of all time, Larry Stanley and Paddy McDonagh. Now Larry Stanley, people always associating with Kildare.
Yes, that's right.
Because he did play with Kildare in latter years.
Yeah.
But they played and Kerry were beaten. But the next year they were back again against the very same opposition, Dublin. And this time Con was partnered by another great midfielder, Bob Stack from Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they were the perfect complement of each other because Con was the stylist, brilliant fielder, perfect delivery with both feet, very accurate. Bob was the rough, tough, hard man that did the spade work, if you like, and as a pair. Now, I have spoken to people, I didn't see that online, but I have spoken to people who saw it. Tom Callaghan, Dan Welch, and a great friend of mine, Mick Collins, behind the bar, his son often comes over here to this house. And Mick Collins rated Con as the greatest of them all. And he saw a man whose judgment I respect now. He saw Mick O'Connell, Paddy Kennedy, and so on. Because it's invidious to be comparing the men of one generation against the next. But it was great. You know, there was a line, I love songs about the football teams, and there was a line of a song written that time. Famous man one time said, "Let me write the songs of a country, and I don't care who makes its laws." But the verse was, at midfield where the fight was raging, shone bristling bright as the morning star. He drove the leather right up to Landos, who fisted neatly across the bar. Now, then there was a part in the next verse was, but once again we were disappointed. The score denied us, and the end drawing near. But through the darkness that was all round us, a silver lining we saw appear. It was a free to carry, Con Brosnan took it. With steady nerve and unerring aim, he scored the point, and again we led him for the final score in Hadford game.
What year was that?
That was 24, and that was his first All-Ireland.
1984, the field was open, it was called after Con Brosnan. I think it was a fitting tribute. He paid him, of course, it's a fitting tribute for anyone who had their local sports field called after him. But of course, I think the name stood out. Of course, here in Moyvane, when we were about naming the field, man with 6 All-Ireland medals was the obvious choice, but it's nice to watch there and see as the monument.
There were a lot of great footballers in Moyvane, but you couldn't think of anybody that would call the field after, except the man that it was called after. Do you know, it must have been a great pleasure to Con that his sons were so great after him. And the greatest of them all, here won an Kerry champion with Moyvane, the man of the house.
Of course, the family was involved on both sides.
That's right. And you know, the final tribute I'll pay to him was a song I wrote myself about the Moyvane team, and I concluded the last verse with as follows. And now a tribute I must pay to those who passed before. The Sullivans, Mahanys, Flavins, Tax, and others by the score. I can't name all in one short verse. I could go on and on, but the greatest man of all the clan was the one and only Con.
To Brosnan, that far-famed midfield boy, and the tactics of Pat Sullivan, there's something to admire. The O'Callaghan's and Flahavan, sure no doubt they're right good men, with the 3 Finucanes from Gelbridge and young Sheehy from the Glen. We shout aloud, for we are proud to see them there that day. Oh, for when the daisies bloom again, some will be far away. Now here's a health to Carney, Nick Roach and Connie Joe. And where to find 3 better boys, it's just what I don't know. And a loud 3 cheers for Prindiville, for Stevie, Stack and James. May God bless all the borough boys who play the Gaelic games. The Tarbert boys, to our surprise, the second half played great. But it was no use, and a poor excuse, they were half an hour too late. For when the final whistle went, the boys in gold and green, they had won the day by honest play at 12 points to 19. Says McCollins, sure it is my time to treat. Oh, if I don't get my turn, says Connie Sheen, I must go down Church Street.
The community centre in Moyvane, built in the early 1980s. It serves the parish as a community centre and a sports centre, and here we see the boys and girls of the national schools in the parish at Camp Crusty, the first summer camp held here in summer 1996. And here they are, the members of Camp Crusty 1996, preserved for posterity by the camera. The children of the parish. The Church of the Assumption in Moyvane. The architect who designed it was Boyd Barrett. It was built by the contractor James McSweeney. It was dedicated in 1956. Here it is, in August 1956, the large crowd of men and women from the parish who came to see Bishop Dennis Moynihan dedicate the church. The parish priest who had the church built was Father Dan O'Sullivan. And here in close-up we see the famous Father Dan. The boys and girls of Moyvane National School. 6th class with their teacher, Miss Mary O'Callaghan. Fifth class with their teacher, Mrs. Mary Madden. Fourth class with their teacher, school principal, Mrs. Nora Adams. Third class and their teacher, Mrs. Ina O'Leary. Senior infants with their teacher, Mrs. Anne Prendeville. Junior infants, the babies of the school, in their first year on the road of education with their teacher, Mrs. Patricia Houlihan. And second class, the boys and girls of second class with their teacher, Gabriel Fitzmaurice. Moving up from the school, we have Bill Buckley's house, Bill and his wife Nora, Eileen McElligot's, stone cutting by the famous stonemason Moss Hartnett of Drumtrasna. A house that was once a shop, a grocer's shop, now owned by Mick O'Brien. Next door to O'Brien's was another shop run by Michael and Ellie Mulvihill, now B&D Agricultural Parts. A shop that serves the needs, the agricultural needs of all the farmers of not just Moyvane, but all the surrounding areas. A hive of industry. Broston's Bar. Next to Broston's Bar is a house that was another shop, now a grocer's shop, now owned by the hairdresser Francis Leahy. Across Jerry Broston's yard, we come to a house now owned by Jerry Broston, which was originally owned by Master Buckley and his wife Molly. It had been for a while a hairdresser's. Padua, called after Padua in Italy, the birthplace of St. Anthony, home of the Brostons. Paddy Scanlon taking in the summer sun. Bord Telecom have an installation at the back of the police barracks. The police barracks is now used only as a police barracks. No family lives there. It was once the site of an RIC barracks which was burned down by the IRA. Next to the barracks is Broderick's house. Next to Broderick's is the grotto, which was opened and built in 1992, formerly the site of the Power family's house, donated to the parish by Kitty Power Healy. Willie Dore's house, one of the oldest houses in the parish, where the inimitable Willie Dore lived for many years. Scanlon's house, Paddy and Hannah. Mulvihill's Motors, owned by Dennis Mulvihill, where Dennis and his brother John service cars, repair cars, sell cars, and offer a 24-hour breakdown service. The site of the old school opened in 1888, closed in 1975, and knocked in 1992. The Glynn Road, showing the old forge. Here is a view of the Glynn Road, looking down to Main Street and Mikey Joe Enright's pub. O'Connor's house, home of the blacksmiths. And next comes Thornton Hill, which served as the schoolmaster's residence. The last teachers who lived there were Tom and Mrs. O'Connell, whose son, Morris, is at present Governor of the Central Bank of Ireland. O'Connor's house, another O'Connor's house, the blacksmiths, next to which is the Marion Hall, opened in the Marion year of 1954. And in the Marion Hall today, Jimmy Hickey is teaching dance to the young Michael Flatleys and Jean Butlers of the parish.
Oh, do you know the big money left after you? No, the big money is coming my way. Ready and waiting by there. Mary's coming. 3. Hi, yeah, you can rest inside. Well, I reckon we started about 15 years ago.
and we've been going ever since. We used to take a break for the summer, but not anymore. We went last summer, all through the summer, and we still made a few bob. And we stopped at the Block Road then in December of 1994, and that's been going well for us. We went every 2 weeks up to about a month ago, and we're going every week now. So we're making a few bob. And what are you raising money for? For to rebuild the Marion Hall. Marion Hall was built in 1954, and that's 40 years.
Thursday night, bingo in the hall where the two fat ladies meet legs 11, and everybody hopes to get their check.
4, 5, 45, 54, 2, 1, 21, 44.
Anna Marie Kennelly calling out the numbers as
Money
usual.
stone number 3. 36, 36, 16, 16. 80, 383. 6969. 42240. 6180 is correct. Is there any other check? Yes, we have another check. What's behind you, Riley?
Manher's house, home of Tom Manher, the milkman, where his sister Eileen, the famous actress, was born, next to which is Carney's house, home of Mick Carney, who worked at the creamery as a boilerman. Mike Kennelly's yard. Next to that, Tom the boss's house and Nard Enright's house, Tom Enright and Nard Enright, next to which was the stores owned by Jim Shine. Once upon a time, that whole area was owned by his aunt, Mrs. Richardson. The house of Con Carmody and his wife, formerly the house of Jim and Mrs. Shine. This house is Lynch's house. It was once the police barracks. Lived in for a while by Joe Noonan and his wife. Joe Noonan, a teacher in the local national school. Next to which is Shine Shop, where a number of the old-timers in the parish meet on a sunny afternoon. The old and the young. Scanlon's house, now unoccupied, next to which is Timmy Buckley's house, married to Ita O'Connor, next to which is Maggie's shop, known to one and all as Maggie's shop, Maggie Dunford, married to Jim Flaherty. Tommy Roach's house, house of another local milkman and the owner of the village grill. Moore's, and next to which is the house of John Collins, the parish clerk, now occupied by his sister Kitty. Next to which is the last mud house in the parish. Noni O'Mahony's, now unoccupied. Mickey Buckley's. Mrs. Doyle's. Next to which is the house of Nora Roach. Her husband Mick Roach was a carpenter. The house of Mary Moore and her husband Johnny Dunford, next to which is the house of May Scanlon. Above May Scanlon's is the now derelict house belonging to another Scanlon family. Mikey Joe Flaherty goes in to Mac's shop. Jack Fitzmaurice with his daily shopping. Eileen Mac serves Mrs. O'Connor, Mary O'Connor. And here comes McElligot's Oils of Asti with the delivery of oil to McElligot's. McElligot's Oils of Asti supply the oil needs and the heating needs of most of North Kerry. They supply kerosene and diesel for all your home heating. the house and shop of Willie and Kitty Shine, next to which is the house of the McGraths, now Colm O'Callaghan's, formerly a bakery, Barney Enright's shop, next to which is Cunningham's house, the home of local singer Eddie Cunningham. The low wall next to the house is the original site of the house. Welsh's house, home to Margaret and Dan Welsh, formerly a news agency and hardware shop. Culhan's shop, as was, now the home of Mrs. Mary Madden and her husband Teddy. The Creamery Field, once the site of the famous marquee in Moyvane. The first carnival was held in Moyvane between May the 25th and June the 5th in 1969, and it was here that the marquee was erected. A 5-pole marquee, a gigantic marquee by standards of the time, being erected by local labour and the trained workmen from the hirers of the marquee. It was a canvas marquee and there was a wooden dancing floor. When the canvas was hoisted, the toilets were put up, the mineral bar was put up, and then the dancing. There was a sound of revelry by night as local people and people from far away came to sample the delights of dancing in Moyvane. The proceeds from that carnival built the stand in the sports field and the community centre in Moyvane. The water tower and Jack Fitzmaurice's house, once his shop, closed in 1984. And the Shamrock House, the last house in the village, home of the Roaches. The house of Nora Kennedy, chemist in the parish, next to which is a derelict site of Jimmy Nolans, a photographer and grocer, next to which is the site of Tom Culhan's, a local harness maker, and Mrs. Quinn's, a dressmaker, which is now the premises of Joe Carney. Joe and Angela, who run a bar in Moyvane which holds dancing and music at weekends, and people from all the surrounding parishes and the local people come to join in music, song and dance. Mike Broston's house, the village grill and Liam Hanrahan's bar.
This year,
yeah.
By SDC at him.
Yeah.
We won the league.
Yeah.
And the minors, of course, kept the championship again this year.
That's right, that's right.
It was a great day in Finucane when they beat very highly fancied Tabard team.
And they've had a few successes over the last few years as well.
As you said, you were trained the minor. I think they won the double, the league and championship.
Yeah, North Korean league and championship, yes indeed. Yes.
I didn't have to understand that every underage team contested a final. They didn't all win them now.
That's right.
They got at least a final.
Yeah, that's a remarkable record.
That's remarkable consistency.
Oh, it is remarkable consistency.
It shows a lot for the future of the club. I mean, the future of Moyvane football is in good state when you have the young players coming out.
And talking about tradition, I think that we were fortunate to get a man who would be blooded for the game, we'll say, in young Sheehy, into the club, like, and on the day of the final, he
looked like being a very, very exciting prospect.
Mairead Carney's bar, formerly Dan Carney's bar. Dan Carney, local auctioneer, publican, grocer. It was also a stopover for the CIE buses. Every Wednesday and Saturday night, and sometimes more often, local musicians congregate to play in Mairead's. Next to it is Broston's bar, the house of Mikey Joe and Ellie May O'Flaherty, next to which is Ellie May's brother, Tommy O'Sullivan, where he lives with his son Mike. Stack's Butchers, where the Stack family have been butchers for generations. Here Eddie Stack and his son Noel and Eddie's wife Julia serve a customer.
Right, okay. That's perfect. Perfect, right. Oh God, I want to watch this.
Shine's house, now Noel Stacks. Mikey Joe's bar, where Mikey Joe and his wife, Peggy, and their family serve the best of Guinness and the best of whiskey and all the rest for their sometimes very happy customers.
We were born and rare, and the song that we sang were the days we were young, and the stone outside and our feet young.
No, that's it.
The former house of the Shanahans. Con Shanahan left Moyvane and married in England, and his daughter Deirdre Shanahan is now one of the finest young poets in England. It's now owned by the Sheehan family, who own the post office. The site of the old pre-1888 National School, the old church and the old presbytery, seen here in one photograph. The old pre-1888 school was built in 1857. The foundation of the old church was laid in 1837, 8 years after Catholic emancipation, and it was knocked in 1964. The new presbytery was occupied in May 1991. The home of Chris and Sheila Sheridan. Sheila Shine, one of the shines of Shine's shop in Moyvane, whose store appears on your picture now. O'Connor's Supermarket. The new houses were first occupied in October 1953. Below the new houses is the wood. A new generation of Moyvane people are experiencing the pleasures of the woods. Here the beavers, young scouts, boys and girls, come in to take care of their plot of ground in the wood, where they have planted trees and shrubs. Formerly McCabe's house, Johnny and Mikey McCabe, now the house of Richie Stack and his wife. The house of Councillor Pat Leahy. Jack Lynch's garage. Jack Lynch sells and services commercial trucks and vehicles. Jack Lynch's house. Shine's shop. Formerly Shine's was a garage as well as a shop, and here you can see Shine's as it was in the old days. Next to Shine's is Holly's, home of Emma O'Brien and her husband Jack. The farmyard and house that was formerly known as the farmyard and house of Dan Carney at the chapel to distinguish him from Dan Carney at the shop. Now the house and home and farmyard of John Carney and his wife. Next door to which is the house of one of the greatest local characters, the local nurse and midwife Bunty Carney, who delivered most of the children in this parish. The farmyard of Ned Buckley. The house formerly and shop of Connie Nolan, Connie Spark Nolan, a fiddle player. Adjoining it is the house of the Buckley family. Next to which is now Mike Kennelly's, formerly Jim Shine's, once upon a time the butcher shop of Michael Hennessy, formerly Mrs. Richardson's, where Mike Kennelly has a hardware shop. And inside we see Mike Kennelly attending his business. An old photograph of Shines, now Mike Kennelly's, looking down the Knockanure Road. A photograph looking up from Mike Kennelly's up the Glynn Road. Tom Stack, local jockey, winner of the Grand National on Red Rum in 1977 at Aintree. Red Rum is buried at the finishing line in Aintree Racecourse. These people are out for a stroll and a pheasant shoot on a pleasant Sunday afternoon. It's an annual traditional event.
We established our prefab building business in 1990 at Leitrim Middle, Moyvane. We manufacture our studded panels here in the workshops. We specialise in pig units which we erect nationwide. To conserve energy, the walls and ceilings are insulated with high density materials and finished on both sides with fibre reinforced cement board.
Kilbaha, the beech wood. Kilbaha School opened in 1929. The first principal was Thomas O'Callaghan. In 1969, the school closed its doors to the last pupil and teacher, John McCarthy and Master Joseph Noonan. The River Gale rises near Corrickerry and meets the Brick 19 miles downstream and then joins the Cashel. This is another view of Ahavoher Bridge and the River Gale. The Gale is a great river for fish, but in bad years it was an unwelcome visitor to many homes along its banks. Needless to say, this is a fisherman having a successful venture. We are at the west of Ahavoher Bridge. The trucks you see here were built to enable the fish to get further upstream. Paddy Finucane, the TD, was responsible for the Cashin drainage which improved the river. Finucane's funeral home, built on the same site as the late Tom O'Connor's undertaking business. Services provided to and from any part of Ireland, England and the USA. All types of new headstones erected, old headstones cleaned and restored.
Finucane Knockanure, approaching the village, the home of the Woods Flynn family. The National Primary School. It is a two-teacher school, Mrs. Helen McHenry, principal, and Mrs. Julian Dunnigan, assistant. The present number of pupils is 36. Like all rural areas over the past 2 decades, we all have seen the drastic decline in the number of children. The school was officially opened in 1966.
Parish cúpla bliain bhí sé na Asbach. An sin tháinig pádraig eis a gcéireann an óir de pádraig an lá sin ó hin I le. Agus amárach
Today, Mrs. McHenry, principal, is discussing the life and times of St. Patrick. The traditions of Gaelic football, Irish dancing are truly kept alive. When the school opened in 1966, it was a 3-teacher school. Cormac O'Leary, principal, May O'Callaghan, now deceased, and Mairead O'Callaghan, with a roll call of 100 children. A grotto to Our Lady was erected on the site of the old pump which supplied water to the village up to 10 years ago. The site of the old church, which was built in 1865, sadly demolished in 1963. This was a fine stone building of architectural beauty and splendour, complete with stained glass windows donated by local people. Within the church grounds there are 2 monuments, one erected to the late parish priest, Reverend Patrick Maher. The other to Reverend Patrick Moore, who emigrated to Australia and died at the very young age of 27 years in 1879. A view of the old church. The only grocery shop now in the village, attached to the only pub in the village, owned by the Flynn Woods family. A view of the Flynn's premises before it was reconstructed. The garage owned by Paddy Kennelly. The site of the commemoration hall. The late O'Connor family home, once a grocery shop. The home of Paddy and Kathy Kennelly and their two sons, Adrian and Alan. The home of Mossy and Philomena Mulno and their daughter Norella, previously owned by the Clancy family and prior to that by the Casey family. This was a post office then. The home of Jerry and Mary Enright. This was the second public house in the village many years ago. Our modern church, containing a number of unique works of art, including specially commissioned handcrafted Stations of the Cross by Oisin Kelly. The crucifix on the altar is bronze, the statue of the Madonna and Child, and the beautiful hand carving of the Last Supper. The bell is the original from the old church. It is still rung manually. The church was dedicated to Corpus Christi, Body of Christ, in March 1963 by the late Bishop Moynihan, assisted by the late Father Fitzpatrick, then parish priest. The home of the late Paddy O'Callaghan and his wife Bessie. He was known locally as the Master. It is now used as a holiday home by the family. On the opposite side of the village, the farm buildings of Jerry Enright, a magnificent flower garden surrounded by a beautiful stone wall. The home of Jackie Cronin. The home of Hugh and Eileen Goulding and their two daughters, Eleanor and Mary, and their granddaughter, Nicola. Back off the main street is the home of Mary O'Carroll, ex-principal of the National School. On the school road, we have a view of the old school built in 1874 by the local people. For the many pupils who opened this school gate, some have happy memories, others sad. It was a 4-teacher school with a roll call of 160 pupils. With the declining rural population, in 1960 it became mixed with a reduction to 3 teachers. There were 100 pupils in attendance when it finally closed in 1966. The home of Christy Goulding, the old school road. Over the past 7 or 8 years, we have seen progress being made on the development of the greatest amenity for the community, our local GA pitch, claimed to be one of the driest pitches in North Kerry. Even though not yet officially opened, matches are being played, and it is being used for training purposes by our senior and school footballers alike. Presently, a big effort is being made by the local club to raise funds to provide dressing rooms, a stand, perimeter fencing, and a car park. Down the years there has been a great tradition of footballers and footballing in the Knockanure area. In 1973 Knockanure won the North Kerry Championship, and in 1974 the North Kerry Junior Cup. In the mid-80s they won the cup 3 years in a row. We had footballing greats such as Neely Buckley, the Collins brothers, Jim and ex-Kerry Minor, the Stack brothers, the O'Connors, the Moores, and many more too numerous to mention. Within the parish of Knockanure, Moyvane, we have a very active athletic club, and down the years they have brought many honours to the parish.
Now this is a rare view of the old church, and you can see plainly from here the two gables where Padre said if you stand on its gables in a fine summer's morning, you need to be young to be doing a bit of climbing up there. Down here from the church we see the ring fort here, and this was known as the Fort of Farn. You know what Farn means? Good land, nil farna tisugum nil spring to na kjol. And this land here is supposed to be very good land. As a matter of fact, there was plans one time by the English to evict all the people of Carrawerock and to build a second great house there, but things didn't go according to their plans. This headstone here is erected to the memory of Paddy Drury, his brothers and his one sister. I never knew his sister, but I did know the three brothers. There was Mick, Billy and Sophie. Sophie was only a nickname because we had a lame leg, and there was a man called Supper from Tralee who used to come to the parish as a businessman, and that's how he got the nickname Supper, from having the lame leg like the businessman who used to call. Paddy was a great wit. He was also a poet. He wrote a lot of fine songs. You see their address here on the headstone is the Bog Lane, Carrawerock. There was a time in Ireland when it wasn't even mentioned, but it was the same as the cry to head up to Connacht. The people had to get into the verge of the bogs to build little huts and shelters for their homes. As far as I'm aware, all the Druries were born in the Bog Lane.
A monument was erected to the memory of Mick Gallivan, ambushed at Kilmany by the Black and Tans on the 7th of April 1921, 75 years ago. It is one of the many monuments erected within the parish of Knockanure to the many Republicans who bravely gave their precious lives in the fight for freedom, thereby giving us our independence. Knockanure, a village in North Kerry, is known worldwide, made famous by the song The Valleys of Knockanure, composed in memory of the four volunteers, Walsh, Lyons, Dalton and Dee, captured on the 12th of May 1921 by the Black and Tans, on the bridge which still stands today in its beautiful valley at Gortaglenna. Another location of historical interest within the parish was the Great House of Kilmany, home of Sir Arthur Vickers, custodian of the Crown Jewels. Many years ago, Knockanure was a very industrious little village. We had a weaver, a blacksmith, a tailor, a shoemaker, a carpenter, a dressmaker, and we had a post office. Knockanure, like many rural areas, is declining, but nevertheless it is still a very lively, busy place, kept going by the many progressive family farms and other workers from the area. The Pattern or Sports Day, held annually on the 15th of August, was a very important and entertaining event in the life of the community. In 1943, the sports were revived after a lapse of 14 years. Down the years, many local athletes excelled as great performers. Names like Maurice O'Connell Moyvane, the Broderick brothers Kyle Gertine, the Macmahon brothers Gortaglenna, the Collins brothers Lissaniska, Mike Murphy and Con O'Keefe Kilmany. Many People travelled from all over North Kerry and West Limerick and further afield to compete in the sports. It is very pleasing to look at the smiling, happy faces, everyone enjoying their day out. There was an old saying, laughter is the best medicine. We don't see too many smiling faces nowadays. I suppose one could put that down to the changing times.